Okay, so thank you everybody again for joining us today. I am excited to help you understand a little bit more about all of the robust reporting tools that are available to you as an administrator through the NHA platform. So here at NHA, as a reminder, we are fully invested in the success for you as well as your candidates. We're here to help ensure that all of your candidates, no matter their background or needs, feel confident and empowered to take their learning as far as they can, and hopefully earn an industry certification at the end. We know confidence is a really large part of that process, and reporting provides insight into how you can help them on that journey. Today's goals are to ensure that you feel confident in viewing that data so that you can continue to help them excel. Before we get started, I wanted to take just a moment and get to know the folks who are here with us today. So I am going to go ahead and launch a poll here. You should see a questionnaire populate out on your screen. Just curious what your title or general function is with the institution that you're coming from. So if none of these really fit your role, there should be an other option, and tell us in the chat box a little bit more what your role is with NHA. We're going to leave this open for just a minute and see if we can capture some data just to see kind of where everybody's coming from. Got almost all of you in there. Give you a couple more seconds and we'll go ahead and end that poll up. All right. So it looks like the bulk of you who are with us today are actually classroom educators working directly with your learners. This is going to be really insightful information for you. But for those of you who are slightly in a different trajectory, that's okay. This is going to be informational for you to help your instructors, help your students or learners as you progress through with this content. One more question, if you guys don't mind. Let's see. I'm just wanting to find out a little bit more here. Let me just post. If you could pick, what is the topic or topics that you are most hoping to walk away with today? What are you wanting to make sure you feel comfortable with? So you should see a variety of topics out on your screen. Go ahead and select whichever one seems to fit most about, if we're talking about reporting, what's the most valuable for you? I know there's lots to read there, so I'll give you just a second. Perfect. Almost there. Give you a couple more seconds here to kind of answer those up. Okay. So it looks like the bulk of you are really focused around the NHA exams, exam readiness, though there are some of those additional learning tools that we're curious about. So this is great. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that because I want to make sure that we are bringing you the content that you need. So let's take a minute now just to do a quick review of what those resources really are. I know that you guys are aware that NHA provides frontline healthcare worker certifications and learning resources for every step of the journey, with 8 nationally accredited certifications, aligned study materials to that prep readiness, as well as additional educational tools that address didactic content, analytics, soft skills developers. So as a refresher, 5 of the 8 certifications fall within the practitioner side of frontline healthcare, including medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy technician, EKG, and patient care technician. There are also 3 certifications in more of an administrative side, which include billing and coding, medical administrative assistant, and e-health records. And then in addition, NHA develops comprehensive learning tools around key objectives for the healthcare professions we serve. Today's webinar will touch on the reporting available with all of the learning tools, but as hopefully you guys expressed you were looking for, we're going to really focus on that content related to the exam readiness and exam outcomes and reporting. So as NHA is continuing the development of a full learning track, and we currently, again, have program resources that range across this, including med-term, anatomy and physiology, and soft skills developers. These can be used across the entire learner's journey, packaged together potentially to provide a comprehensive experience for them from start to finish. Each individual tool provides documentation of learner usage, time spent, progress, but they all follow slightly different ways to do that. Now, NHA has been working on full program maps to help with implementing the suite of possible resources for you. No matter what profession you're teaching towards, we know that understanding where your learners are in their path and how they're doing as they progress is a key element of their success. So today, we're going to look over the NHA reporting tools, spending time on exam prep reports and testing readiness. We'll also review newer features in the Learning Insights Center, as well as some of the key elements in the reporting for those other learning resources. To begin, let's review the big question we always get. What do my learners need to get to earn their certification? And this all starts with the test plan. So the test plan is the blueprint, the outline of the exam itself. We highly recommend that you provide this to your learners, but also use it perhaps as a checklist for readiness. It is also important to understand how candidates will be scored on the high stakes certification exam. In the preparation tools, the practice tests provide a pure percentage of accuracy across exam competencies, but the certification exam evaluates each question with a scaled score, which we're going to review in a second. Exams are developed after a full job task analysis, which includes subject matter experts, industry practitioners, several rounds of committee evaluation. And this, along with our governing board and meeting the accreditation standards, help us to create the test plans as well as exam questions. All of NHA's test plans are listed on the website, ready for anyone to view. These are tied uniquely to each certification. So once an exam is released after it's been developed, then the psychometrician team, I love that word, psychometrician, processes the questions through an evaluation process. This time period is actually coming up for the CMAA exam, which we're launching a new version of in the fall. The new test plan outline is already available for you to download and review on the website. Every candidate who tests follows the same blueprint. It's what the prep materials and practice tests are also based on. The scored items on the exam outline a series of competencies and tasks that will be found on the exam itself. Though every candidate who challenges the test follows the same test plan, not everyone may have the same questions. To fairly score each individual across a variety of possible questions, each question is evaluated through a series of layers, which include how hard is the question? How often in your role will you be asked to do this thing? Or even how important is it you get it right the first time? These are just some of the layers that are used to establish what we label as the cut score to provide a fair assessment, right? Every exam has a maximum score range of 500. No matter what questions you may receive as a candidate, no matter which test you're taking, you have the potential to earn 500 points on that exam. There will be questions on the test that we don't score, so learners will want to be sure and answer all questions to the best of their ability. Those non-scored questions are not included in the test plan outline. Only those scored questions are identified here. So the minimum passing score for any of NHA's exams is 390 or higher. So if you have a learner who earns a 389, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean they missed just one question, but that they didn't make the minimum cut score. So here we see an administrative login. If this isn't familiar to you, please post your information in Q&A so we can be sure to connect you with your NHA primary contact and make sure that you get your login established. Now, the center of the screen is where all of your additional resources and walkthroughs are found, including a link to all of NHA's test plans right there for you from your login. Exam scores for candidates who test through your institution are found directly from the quick link on your main page on the left-hand side. If you take a look at that navigation bar, you will find the View Exam Results option. You can see individual candidate names, Scores, if they've earned their certification number. Scores will populate on the right-hand side of the screen. If there is an exam score, that means the test occurred. In the instance that there may be a missing score, that means that the exam didn't happen for that individual candidate. It was scheduled, but didn't occur, usually due to a reschedule, but it could also mean a missed exam. So on that, I wanted to call out some information around a study NHA completed recently from over 6,000 candidates across the country, where we uncovered some really interesting information around some of the biggest hurdles that existed for those candidates to take the exam. So out of the options listed, as you can see here, we've got a couple different options. I'm going to open up another poll here. What do you think was the most common issue reported? So you can see you've got all the same things listed up there. What do you think was the most consistent concern? Give you just a minute to answer. All right, got about half of you now. Let's see if anybody else wants to put in their coin in the pot here. I love this real-time data. It's so much fun. I'm a big data nerd, as you guys could probably guess. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this poll up in just a second. All right, so for those of you who answered test anxiety, low confidence, you are correct. We know that this can be addressed through preparation. This is one of the many reasons why it's a best practice to get your candidates into their NHA accounts as soon as possible, so you can start to monitor their progress and learning through the NHA study materials and reporting tools. In addition, once a candidate has created or has that account set up, NHA begins to send them welcome emails and information on preparing for their exams. So here are just some of the hundreds of comments from that survey that focused on uncertainty, not just with general anxiety, but not knowing if they're prepared. Have they learned all the things they needed? And worry about even making it through a timed exam. That's where understanding the exam itself, as well as the reporting and visibility to exam readiness through analytics, can really help. That leads us to taking a look to what those reports really do, right? That's kind of the bulk of today's conversation. As a review, the NHA exam online study materials are based on the NHA test plan for that certification and includes an interactive study guide aligned to the test plan. These will have graded quizzes, engaging learning features to help as they prepare for their test. The package also includes a series of practice assessments designed to look and feel just like the exam. The reports available for these resources are based on candidate time spent in the learning, as well as any assessments completed during that process. If you're providing the exam preparation tools to your learners, you can access these reports directly from your dashboard. Start by going into the course itself through the courses link on the left-hand navigation bar under Prep Materials. Now you select the course you want to access through the course details. Depending on the materials you're using, you may need to scroll down the screen, but the moment your first learner starts in any of the content, you will begin to see several orange reporting buttons. These are the printable PDF reports tied to either the online study guide or practice assessments that they have been accessing. All of NHA's exam study materials have these printable PDFs available for you. Now, if you notice that your materials also have a link to the Learning Insight Center, you'll have another layer of reporting, which we're going to review here in a moment. But first, let's focus on what each of these paper reports will do. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at here. The study guide gives you the option to select the full report or open that data per module. So each one of them gives you the option to open a module view or the full report. The first button, labeled View Report, is the group report for everyone enrolled in this course, viewing the data at the module level. The transcript report will show you a per learner overview, but not just of the study guide. It will provide a detailed walkthrough of all touch points for that individual within any of NHA's learning materials. And the combined report is actually each individual learner's personal report that they have received combined into one document for you. So let's look at each one of these a little bit closer. So that view report, that first button, pulling this group report for your study materials will start off at the first module, showing an overview of total time spent by the entire cohort, as well as any quiz attempts and average score. Scrolling down will then show you a per learner list within that module of each week of access, the number of logins that week, and total time spent per week. Continue down the report and you'll be shown the quiz scores individually. You'll see each attempt per candidate, outlining if they took the quiz more than once. You'll see the date and times for each, helping to identify if there was any study actually done in between those attempts, which we know doesn't always happen. And also the score for each attempt, bringing some light to the level of mastery at the topic level. The quizzes tied to each module will be content just from that core area of learning. The transcript report, that's the second button, is sort of the source of all truth for data collection and access to the study materials. It can be pulled again per module or for the entire study guide and is a view of material usage per candidate. Here we see the transcript report for our pretend candidate here, Gary. The report begins with an overview of any assessment completed so far in alphabetical order. This includes practice test and quiz attempt summaries with timestamps, scores, and for the practice assessments, any time logged in that candidate's focused review. Scrolling down will then give you an overview of all time spent within the study guide at a per week view, and then break down each individual module in weekly access, time spent, and quiz attempts. The quiz information will also let you know how many attempts occurred, when they did, the individual score, and total time per attempt. Now, in general, NHA does not recommend that candidates take those module quizzes multiple times, as it doesn't really aid to the learning process to memorize those questions. As you become more comfortable with the data, you can see pretty quickly, as in this instance, if a candidate took the quiz back to back, simply to enhance their score. The last PDF report tied to the study guide is the combined report. This report will pull for you each individual candidate's personal report that they are provided through their candidate login. So you will receive at least one page per module per learner. So in the case, for example, of the medical assisting materials, that means 17 pages for each candidate. So this can get a bit intense. This report is best used when working one-on-one with an individual. So you can have just the information related to that one person for personal remediation. The reports are broken out in a similar fashion for the practice test results, with a new report loading for each practice assessment version. Again, this includes group results per assessment, individual transcript breakdown, and the individual assessment report per candidate, same method. We're going to go through each of these again, starting with the group report. This will start with an overview of the cohort, outlining the combined average score, how many have taken this assessment, and the date the first attempt occurred. Scrolling down a little will provide you the breakdown for the practice assessment across the test plan. Remember, these have a finite amount of uses, and each attempt will follow the complete test blueprint. So depending on your program or goal, using them too soon in the learning journey may not be the optimal use of those materials. You will see your group score across each core competency, as well as the outline of that test plan. This is how many scored questions there are in each category. Scrolling further will bring you to the full itemized test plan per domain. You'll see each line item and the percentage of accuracy across the cohort. This is your customized list to see where the group is scoring and how to help create your review plans before having them move on to the next practice assessment. Now, scrolling all the way to the bottom of this report will showcase for you the individual candidate scores that were combined to create the data of this report. This way, you can quickly identify any candidates who might be outliers in the content, pulling the group score in one way or another, as you can see here with Stanley. Now, you can quickly identify any individuals who might benefit from some further one-on-one remediation. So following suit into the transcript report. This will provide the exact same report we already saw associated to the study guide. The only difference is only those candidates who have taken this unique practice assessment will be on the report. So if you have a group of 10, but only 5 have tried the practice test, the transcript report tied to that attempt will only have information for those 5 individuals. And finally, the combined report is again where you can pull each individual's personal report, which for the practice assessments can really help to uncover where they may be struggling at the individual level. For each candidate's individual attempt, the report will begin with detailed information of their overall score, how long they spent, and then moves into an overview again of the main core areas. This is the outline of the exam itself for all scored questions and how they scored in each area. Scrolling down will show you all of the topics that that individual missed at least one question on from that practice test attempt. This is the outline of what NHA would suggest they go and review further. Is also the blueprint of what this candidate's focused review will showcase to help as they further remediate before their next practice assessment. This is a report that that candidate receives. They have this document as well. Okay, so that was a lot of content. Now we're going to take our reporting conversation further into the Learning Insight Center. But before we get there, I wanted to take a quick moment and see what learning tools that you guys are currently using for your learners. So again, I'm pulling up a couple different pieces. Is it the exam prep? Are we looking at some of our supplemental learning tools? I'm just a little curious to see kind of where everybody is. Perfect. Give you guys just a minute here. All right, got about half of you. See if anybody wants to join in. Okay, we're slowing down on the data, so we'll go ahead and close this up in just a second. Perfect. So as we saw kind of originally, it's exam prep, study guide, practice assessments with a couple of folks working on some of our other learning tools. Don't worry, guys, we are going to talk a little bit about those here, so stick with us, okay? Thanks so much, everyone, for sharing that with us. Now, for clarity, what we're going to go and review is specific to those NHA exam preparation tools that are within the practical side of certification, specifically medical assisting, phlebotomy, patient care tech, and pharmacy tech. We are working on these supplemental reports for all certification prep, but these 4 are currently those that are active within the Learning Insight Center, and specifically the NHA Vitals report. So the Learning Insight Center is the central hub of our dynamic reporting tools and is available directly from your main login, but is also accessible from within the course next to the rest of your reporting features. Depending on the materials you offer, this report may hold a variety of information, and we're going to address some high-level themes, but we'll start with those related to, again, exam readiness, which include the NHA P360 Vitals and our brand new launch of the Prep Performance Analytics. As I mentioned earlier, these reports are currently available for 4 of the 8 nationally accredited exam packages. If you're teaching towards the other 4, the PDF reporting we just reviewed is what you have access to. So we are working on it for everybody else, but this is kind of what we're focused right now. Starting with the P360 vitals, once you select the certification, the location, or courses, you kind of configure your page, you'll be taken to your landing page. This is your news feed of what's been happening. This report is designed to provide you information across 4 key questions. What materials are my learners using? How are they doing in that content? Who needs the most help and where do they need help? Right? These are kind of what its goal was. So selecting either card on this screen will take you into the reporting focused on either your group or individual learner content. You can also use the menu icon in the upper left-hand corner to take you into any of the reporting pages available. Once your first student has taken a practice assessment, NHA will begin to identify some statistics on their probability of passing the exam. Prior to that first assessment attempt, any reporting feature related to these remediation groups will show as not enough data or simply as 0. So once your first student has taken a practice assessment, we're going to start identifying that information, and we're going to select learners. And you can see each candidate, their remediation group, when applicable, and general information around their usage of the NHA materials, as well as overall accuracy across any assessments completed. No matter which page you're on, you can set this data to filter using the funnel icon in the upper right-hand corner. Here you can select the who and the what you want to focus on. This filter will carry through to any page until you either log out or reset it. So from the learners page, selecting any of the candidates listed will show you their individual summary page, highlighting any practice assessment completed, time spent, outcome, quizzes. Hovering over the quiz number will populate the dates and individual attempts if taken more than once. So going back to our landing page, right from that home screen, instead, let's go take a look at summary. We followed learners, now we're in summary. And this will show you a high-level overview of any candidate usage, performance, and identify those in remediation groups. We'll highlight those topics most at risk from the practice assessments. Here you can follow the task details, or using the menu, select performance by task. And this will take you to the next report. This page highlights the full test plan outline, ranking topics from weakest to strongest. This will only populate after that first practice assessment has been completed. Selecting any of the topics will provide for you at the bottom of the screen, so be sure to scroll down, the itemized topics from the test plan, again organized with those most at risk at the top. The final page in the vitals report is the study guide and quiz utilization. From here, you can see each module and how much time on average the candidates are spending in them, along with overall quiz usage. This is a usage report, not a score report. So this will highlight where they are spending or not spending their time. Hovering over any of these bars will highlight more information around the content, also showcasing how much time NHA would suggest they spend within each module. These timelines are based on efficacy studies that NHA has completed, outlining where the highest success levels were for candidate usage compared to exam outcomes. We actually provide this information for you for all of our learning resources in the content-specific implementation guides that are available to you. These outline for you the content, implementation suggestions, those suggested timestamps we would suggest for your learners to navigate through the materials. So here's just 4 of our 8 certifications and the time we would suggest the average candidate take to work through it. And it does vary depending on the certification. Here's an example of how we outline not only per certification, but also per module to help with implementation and setting expectations for your students. Again, we have these for all of our learning tools, not just for the exam prep content. NHA has recently launched a new reporting feature to combine the PDF reports we looked at first and the vitals report we've just been reviewing for those certifications that currently have access to the Learning Insights Center. You can find the newly launched Prep Performance Analytics in your dropdown from the Learning Insights Center. And this is designed to combine, again, the vitals and PDFs under one umbrella. Navigating through this will show you detailed reports for your week at a glance, time spent in learning, practice assessment outcomes, and topics at risk. Scrolling down on your landing page is where you can view the learners, the study guide, module, or practice test, depending on your view. You can see each of your learners to start, identifying their progress through the study materials. On the right-hand corner is your filter, which will allow you to filter by learner, study content, or practice assessment. Selecting the study guide from your homepage will then outline each module of the study materials. Choosing any of the modules directly will dive deeper into that one section, providing a per candidate look with most recent access, total time, quiz attempts, and scores. Selecting any candidate from here will then take you into the candidate view of their study materials. Now, this is almost identical to the new reporting view available to your learner. And you can view each module, practice test, or report at the individual level from here. Okay, the practice test tab will showcase a view of all practice assessments completed with how many attempts have occurred, average time spent, test score, how that score compares to the national average of that practice assessment, and information on the focused review. So you can select any attempt form and it will open that assessment attempt details page with average score, time in the focused review, and a per candidate view, including average time spent per question. Now, this is a great layer of insight into how much time your learners are spending reading through the questions and answers before selecting theirs, and a wonderful opportunity to talk to them regarding test taking strategies. And just like selecting the learner's name from the study materials, selecting any candidate from here will give you the candidate-facing view of the reporting, including focused review time, topics at risk, and based on that attempt, how that candidate fares towards the national average and readiness to challenge the NHA exam in a kind of red, yellow, green light view. Now, this is in comparison with the national average at that assessment level. Another feature that comes along with these new analytics is the download center. The exam preparation tools have always had the ability to download informative PDFs, which we've already reviewed. And the Pharmaceer and Pharmaceer Math have also always provided the option to download files in a report by following the summary click path, which then gives the option to export downloadable Excel, CSV files, or PDFs of general score reports. But now, with the launch of our new analytics tools, you may also now see the Download Center as an option in your Learning Insight Center for our other larger learning resources. So this tool gives you the option to select the materials you want to pull and clarify the course you're searching for. From here, you can select the learner or type of document you're searching for, or scroll down and to download the Excel CSV or PDF of the materials you've chosen, or filter to for your records. These PDFs are the same ones we looked at originally, related to the combined report for all learners, as well as the per learner transcript report, but are filterable to just one learner or several. The CSV files allow you to download an uploadable Excel spreadsheet that will provide you either details or summary reports of recent access, time spent, and quiz or exam scores. So, okay, that was a lot of information, and I know NHA does more than just exam readiness. So checking in, looking over all of those resources, I just wanted to ask real quick, as we look ahead, right, looking over this material, what would you maybe want to learn more about? We've covered a lot of content so far, but of the learning tools we've just looked at, what would you like more information on? And again, if you select other, just post that in the Q&A or chat box, we can capture that. All right. just a few folks here. Give you a second. Got about half of you there. Maybe another minute just to fill in. Gonna close this up in just a second. All right, ending now. Okay, so it looks like we still do have some more further questions. I know we were doing kind of a broad scope across the exam readiness and reports, but thank you guys, the MA skills, personability, midterm, this is really great. Thank you so much for answering that. I do appreciate you kind of checking in with me there. So the good news is we do have reports for all of NHA's learning tools, most of which are available in the Learning Insights Center. So that's good to know, right? That most of them are there. Each learning solution that NHA has created focuses on more educational development and comes equipped with reporting features, implementation guides, and additional tools for you and your learners. Now, we can't get into all of that today, so let's talk about just a few similarities in the reporting. No matter what learning resource you're leveraging, the reports will be sure to monitor your learners' time spent in the platform, overall performance for any scored assessments, and provide both cohort and individual views to accuracy and performance, and identify candidate progress through the materials. But what does progress mean, right? That's a little bit different. Each tool may define progress a little bit differently, depending on the content your learners might be going through. You can see here a basic outline of progression through each major learning tool outside of the NHA exam readiness and study guide. Progression generally is an overview of completion through the content, assessed either by an assessment completion or activities, or sometimes both. Anatomy and physiology and NHA's medical terminology tool are very similar. They identify progress as the completion of module activities. A complete list of those activities are available to you as an administrator in your supplemental educational toolkit aligned to these resources. Pharmaceer and Pharmaceer Math are unique in that each module has many lessons called objectives, which each has their own independent lesson quiz. So the study guide, for example, has a quiz per module. The Pharmaceer has a quiz per lesson. These tools identify progress as the completion of the module lesson quizzes. Okay. The MA Skills Builder resource will look much like the new prep performance analytics we just reviewed, outlining not only time within each module, but activities completed, as well as successful completion of the interactive quizzes. The soft skills and professionalism simulation tools, as well as our industry certificate on working in a patient-centered care environment, are the only not found in the Learning Insight Center. These are built into the tool itself. They monitor learner progression through the materials based on the achievement of milestones through assessment and gating technology, and also provide information on time in the material, an independent lesson, or assessment completion scores. All of these have further resources, as I mentioned, in the administrative toolkits, which can provide lesson plans, resource maps, PowerPoint presentations, and implementation guides. These outline timelines for candidate progression and can even have supplemental walkthroughs and videos for you and your learners. To help even further, NHA is initiating a new method to help with learning. Expect to see some announcements soon of a new resource app that your students can download based on their access to the NHA materials for any learning tool that includes flashcards. This app will provide a more advanced access of those flashcards at their fingertips and will relay back reporting of that time spent. I mentioned earlier that we're going to have some surveys coming out. The completion of the instructor survey, this is the larger one. This will also give NHA some more information as to your program rhythm, what you need and how you intend to instruct your students. And we're going to be posting that link here in a little bit. Remember, filling this out prior to April 15th will put you into a chance to win a $500 gift card. So keep an eye for that. And also our upcoming events page, or subscribe to notifications for our webinar series. We're going to be hosting these periodically throughout the year for students, instructors, proctors. We've got a proctor one coming up next week, for example. As a reminder, NHA wants you to be able to address your questions when they happen. So we have a how-to space available built into your platform. These are self-guided resources. They're your first line of defense for you and your students on kind of more of the mechanics around what to do. And we do have walkthroughs in there on the PDF reports, on the vitals report. So please feel free to share those with your students. If the answer that you're seeking is not immediately found here, then that's where our client care team comes in. They're the live chat, the help center, phone line, and are available extended hours, but not 24 hours. So, keep that in mind. This is an incredible group of people, all real live humans located in the United States, and they respond as quickly as they can. And then in addition, you also have your NHA client executive. Now, if you don't know who your personal contact is, please post that in the Q&A so we can get you them. If you need help with other tools, if you want a one-on-one walkthrough with someone from the client experience team scheduled, this is the person you connect with so they can get that one-on-one training set up, or can address additional questions that you may have. Okay, so I know that you guys are working really hard. This was a lot of information to absorb relatively quickly, but I do want to thank you all. We know here who's the real hero of the story, and that's you guys. You're working so hard, and you all care so deeply for your learners. So we're very, very thankful that you're here with us today. I want to remind you what's coming next. We're going to get into the Q&A. Anyone who registered for today's session, it's being recorded, will receive that recording within the next week or so. If you haven't got a question addressed, we're going to open up Q&A here in just a minute, but we're also going to go ahead and post those links for those surveys in the chat box now. So there's 2 links. The larger one is that independent user survey for you as an instructor. Completing that before April 15th will put you into a raffle for a $500 gift card. And then completing the other link is unique just to this webinar. We're trying to capture to see, is this information that you need? What other information do you want? So please fill those out. Hannah, if you could grab those. There's the instructor form link. Thank you so much. That's the $500 gift card one. And then the smaller one is going to be for that $50 gift card. So please go ahead, copy those into a document or an email and complete them after we're done here today. All right, so I know that was a lot of information. I hope everybody stuck with us here today, but I'm sure there have been some kind of consistent questions. So what have been kind of those questions that have percolated as we've gone through today's conversation?
Hi, Laura, this is Mary. At
Hi.
the very beginning, or up until halfway through, there was a little confusion over inviting students to create an account versus inviting students to a course.
Oh, okay. Well, so that wasn't really topics that we covered today, but we can definitely address that. So there's a couple different ways that you can get your candidates into their study materials in the first place. We do recommend that you have your candidates create those accounts or get invited to their NHA account as early in their journey as possible. This helps us to be able to provide for them kind of reminders, checkpoints, for them to kind of get familiar with the NHA platform. I'm going to pull up an administrative account so we can go in and take a look at it here. But inviting them to create an account is not the same as inviting them to a course, right? So let's go ahead and get that open. Here's a login for an instructor. And if I wanted to invite my candidates just to get established on the NHA platform, inviting to account gets that initiated, gets it set up, but it doesn't tie them to anything specifically other than your institution, which we definitely want so that you guys can capture that data. But if you invite them to create an account, they are not provided exam prep. They are not guided towards, kind of any particular thing, but are given access to their landing page. In contrast, if you have a course that you want to invite them to, in your course roster, you can invite that candidate directly from here. Inviting a candidate to a course can initiate their login if they don't have one already, and will also then initiate the transfer of inventory from you as an institution into that candidate account. So it's a slightly different process. We don't necessarily believe that on day one of a program, you want to give your students the study materials, which is where we would say, hey, let's get them set up in their account. And then when it's time to initiate that learning, you can then invite them to the course, or they can request enrollment to the course. Does that answer that question? I want to make sure that that was what was being asked.
Yes. I think there was
Great.
just a little confusion. They saw some things on that dashboard and they just wanted that clarified.
So I see Lisa just asked if I invite my students to the course, right? So let's start there. If I invite a candidate here, it will send an email. It will be a notification that's sent to that candidate. But if that student does not activate that link that they get in that email, no inventory gets transferred. They have to take that action step to select that link to transfer that inventory. So it will transfer inventory, but only once a candidate has taken action. Hopefully that answers your question, Lisa. I just saw that pop up in the chat box. Mary, what other questions have we had populate throughout today?
A lot of them were just pretty one-offs that, particular to what they have, their prep materials, printed versus online. They wanted to know if they were available printed guides for the printed
So yeah, the NHA
materials.
study materials, the exam prep study materials are available for purchase in print. However, they are designed as online features. So they're not maybe quite as interactive or robust in the printed version. You also have to pay for shipping if you get the printed version, but they are available in print if you do require that. We, of course, can't capture any data on a printed iteration of that content. If you do purchase the printed version of the study guide, it is expected in your agreement with NHA that you are providing those at a 1-to-1 ratio with your students. They are workbooks designed to provide directly to students and should not be housed in a library. There should not be like a classroom version of it. That would be a breach of copyright and infringement of that agreement with NHA. So if you do purchase the printed copy, you want to be sure that that's assigned directly to the students for them to keep and them to use. We do recommend the digital version because that way we can capture all this great data, provide you that content, and they have access to it from their mobile device or from anywhere that they go as long as they have access to the internet. Lisa did ask about inventory. Again, what you see on inventory is what you have at the institution level. So this is not just your unique one. If there are 3 MA instructors at your institution, and you only have 10 total, that's how much the institution has, not how much you uniquely have. So you always want to check that before enrolling a student into a course. So hopefully that answers that question. You cannot remove a course roster, but when you are done with a course, when you're no longer actively monitoring that course, you'll just go into that course details button here. So I just saw Charlotte had a question there, and you want to archive the course. This is when you're done monitoring your students through that course feature. Archiving a course does not do anything negative to the candidates who are in it. All it will do is move it out of visibility for new learners. It deactivates the roster feature, so no new candidate can get enrolled into that material. That's all it does. Reporting will still load. You still have access to see it. It's all still there. So these are some great questions. I know they're kind of not really based off reporting, but at least they're there. You cannot remove a student from a course. Once they're in it, they're in it. So let's make sure that they're in the right course. I see if you try to move them from course to course, it's possible you might accidentally duplicate the learning content that they've been provided or possibly corrupt the reporting. So we don't really want to remove people from content and give it to them again. It can kind of the reporting system doesn't really like that because then it gets confused and doesn't know where people are. So hopefully that was helpful. What other questions, if any, do you guys have? We've got a few more minutes here before the end of our hour. As a reminder, this is being recorded. We will be sending this out to everybody. Please fill out those surveys. Hannah, if you want to post those one more time, those are out there. We'd love to get your feedback a little bit, but hopefully this was helpful for everyone to kind of get a little bit more insight into the material. So let's see here. Add inventory online. Oh, Heidi, that's a great question. Not yet. We're working on it. If you do need to add inventory, you'll need to connect with your client, your personal NHA account representative, your client executive. There's several different ways to purchase inventory for your program, but not every user at an institution has the authority to purchase inventory. So we do want to make sure we follow the proper channels for that. So connect with your NHA contact to talk further about adding inventory. Great question. Thank you, Janet. We're glad you like them. Come back. We've got a proctoring webinar next week. And for those of you who have candidates who might be on the fence right now for even wanting to test, tonight, believe it or not, at 7 p.m. Central Time, we are hosting a candidate-focused webinar on the value of earning your certification. There'll be a couple of reminders around kind of what resources are available, what comes after credentialing, but they can go and register out on our website. I'm just going to show you where that tool is. So if we go under the Resources Center in upcoming events, there's a couple of links there. We have specific Maximize Success. These are the webinar series for you as educators and administrators, but Empower Your Success. This is where your students can register for upcoming webinars. We'll do these periodically. So we do have one literally tonight at 7 o'clock. We'd love to have your students there for anyone who might be a little bit hesitant about what that next step might need to be for them. So thank you all so much. We're just going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm going to stop the recording, but we'll stick on for another couple of seconds and answer any kind of percolating questions as they come through. So please fill out those surveys. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And I'll make sure to stay here till the end of the hour so we can answer any additional questions.